The anime opens with a scene of a man sleeping beneath a tree. This is our protagonist, Ark. He awakens, startled by the unfamiliar surroundings around him. What surprises him even more is when he looks down at himself and finds that he's wearing a strange silver armor, one that resembles the armor of knights. He begins talking to himself, saying, "I know this armor well. This is Plinus's sacred armor, the one that resists both fire and light." He remembers that this was the same armor he used in the game he used to play, and the name of his character in that game was also Ark. He notices that all the equipment he had in the game is now physically in front of him, things like the Titanios shield and the thunder sword, Gladios. He starts to doubt reality, wondering if this might all just be a dream. But when he grabs the sword and feels its weight, the realistic sensation convinces him otherwise. This is no dream. Curious to test out the skills he once had in the game, he holds the sword and slashes toward the forest. The strike is incredibly powerful, obliterating everything in its path. Ark is stunned by the force and asks himself, "Can I actually use magic too?" He tries, and to his amazement, a fireball bursts from his hand, incinerating an entire tree. He's shocked even more. His in-game character was a holy knight, and holy knights couldn't use magic. But it's now clear that Ark has inherited skills from multiple classes. He realizes just how immense his current power is, and decides to test all his abilities and continue growing stronger. But suddenly, hunger strikes him. He searches through his armor and realizes he has no food or money. "I need to find a nearby village to get food, or anything useful," he says. He decides to use a magic gate to teleport somewhere populated, but the spell fails. Standing atop a cliff, he understands that the gate only works if he's previously visited the location. Then he remembers another ability, the instant transfer skill, which lets him teleport to any place he's seen with his own eyes. Excited by his newfound power, Ark heads down to the river to drink. He removes his armor and approaches the water, but is shocked when he sees his reflection. He remembers that he had chosen the skeleton character model. Now he understands, if anyone saw him like this, they'd assume he was a monster, so he decides never to remove his helmet around people again. He continues onward, eventually arriving at a small village. As he walks through it, he catches the scent of delicious food, but, lacking money, he moves on. Then he hears voices down a side alley. Curious, he peeks and finds a woman yelling at a man because he didn't bring her the information she asked for. She says, the deal was just to investigate. Success wasn't guaranteed. Frustrated, she turns away and storms off. Ark smiles in surprise. He recognizes her. It's Elf. He rushes after her, but once he turns the corner, she's already gone. He suddenly finds himself standing in front of the mercenary guild. So he enters to ask for a paid mission. The clerk informs him that he needs a license first, but before that, he must pass a simple test. He must kill 3 targets. They can be monsters, wild beasts, or bandits. Ark agrees and heads off to complete the mission. He quickly defeats 2 beasts, leaving 1 target remaining. He hears something moving in the bushes, approaches, and sees a massive creature. Finally, a real monster, he says joyfully. With a single strike, he cuts it clean in half. He bags the corpses and keeps moving. While walking back, he hears more noise. A carriage under attack by a group of bandits with 2 girls trapped inside. One of the bandits approaches them, a malicious grin on his face. Ark hesitates. He doesn't want to kill humans, but then hears one of the girls scream as the man tries to assault her. In that moment, Ark appears behind the man and ends his life with a single blow. The remaining bandits freeze in shock at how quickly their leader was taken down. They try to flee, but Ark cuts one down and finishes off the rest effortlessly. He then approaches the 2 girls. The maid introduces herself as Rita and says the woman Ark saved is Lauren, of the House of Louvre. He asks them to change clothes while he finishes clearing the bodies. He looks over the scene and thinks to himself, I feel no guilt, even though I killed people. He burns the bodies and takes the loot. Soon after, Lauren returns in clean clothes and thanks him for saving them. She asks if he'd be willing to accompany them on the road, if he doesn't mind. He agrees, and they travel together. On the way, Rita asks for his name. He replies, I'm Ark. Later, Ark returns to the guild and hands in the corpses. The clerk is surprised by how fast he completed the task, praises his strength, and explains that he must collect soul stones from the monsters he defeats. These stones are used for magic and weapon crafting. The clerk gives Ark his license. Ark then heads to the inn, books a room, and orders food. He eats with pure satisfaction, holding a soul stone in his hand and thinking, this isn't just a game, this is a real world. He grows more excited for what lies ahead. The next day, Ark takes on a new mission, a simple one. protecting a girl while she collects medicinal herbs. He reveals that he chose this specific task to avoid larger missions that could expose his identity. He travels to a small village and asks an old man for directions. The man points him to the right house. Ark arrives at a modest home. A young girl opens the door, fear in her eyes at the sight of the giant knight before her. He asks her if she's Marka. Surprised, she responds, "I'm Marka." He introduces himself. "I'm Ark, the knight assigned to protect you on this mission." Relieved, she offers him tea and asks if they can head out immediately. He agrees, and they set off. As they walk, Ark notices how hurried her steps are, so he asks why she's rushing. After hesitating, she admits that she's doing this job behind her mother's back. If her mother found out, she'd forbid her from leaving the house, so she wants to finish quickly and return before her mother gets home from work. She then shares her story. Gathering herbs was her late father's job. May he rest in peace, before he passed away a year ago. Since then, her mother has carried the burden alone. That's why Marka decided to help however she could. Ark was deeply impressed by her noble goal, and he felt ashamed of himself. At her age, he had cared about nothing but playing and sleeping. Marka began picking flowers, and Ark noticed she had vast knowledge of herbs. She told him that her father had taught her everything before he passed away. Amidst all of this, Ark sensed a strange movement coming from the tree in front of him, so he told Marka to stay put and not move. He approached the tree, expecting a monster or some strange creature to appear, but what emerged was merely a small squirrel. Ark decided to try a healing skill on it, and indeed the skill worked. The squirrel recovered and seemed overwhelmingly joyful. Marka laughed and said, "It looks like it wants to stay with you forever," then told him he must give it a name. After thinking for a moment, he named it Panta. The squirrel leapt with joy when called by that name. Shortly after, a villager appeared, clearly exhausted, warning them that the forest had become a haven for strange and dangerous beasts. Meanwhile, the old man who had helped Ark that morning approached a woman, asking if she had sent her daughter, Marka, into the forest. That woman was Yona, Marka's mother. She was startled by the question and told him that Marka was supposed to be at home, but the old man informed her that he had seen Marka leaving early that morning, heading into the forest with a large armored knight. He assured her that her daughter was safe, as she was not alone. Back in the forest, Marka shouted that she had finally found the tree she had been searching for, and ran towards it in joy. But at that moment, Ark sensed danger, and ordered her to move away immediately. When he turned around, he saw a giant lizard emerging from between the trees. Marka fell to the ground, paralyzed by fear, as the monster lunged toward her with its claws. But suddenly, Marka vanished from sight. Yes, it was Ark who had pulled her away with incredible speed just before the beast could reach her. The creature roared in frustration, and began spewing a toxic mist in all directions. Ark used a teleportation skill and escaped with her to safety. From a distance, Ark watched the monster and muttered, "Even mid-level players would struggle against this one." The creature lashed out its tongue, but Ark deflected it with his sword. Suddenly, the monster disappeared and began moving in unpredictable patterns. Ark sensed that the next attack would be lethal, so he fully opened his shield and braced himself. The beast unleashed a terrifying attack capable of turning anything it touched into stone, but Ark blocked it with his shield and survived. The monster then followed up with a rapid series of ferocious strikes. At that point, Ark decided to use one of the Holy Knight's advanced skills. A strange light began to shine beneath the beast, and a massive golden sword emerged from the ground under its feet. With a single strike, the sword cleaved the monster in two. In the midst of all this, Ark noticed something odd. The strange bracelet on the creature's leg vanished the moment it died. Marka and Panta were amazed by what had just happened, and they rejoiced that the danger was over. But Ark looked uneasy. He told Marka not to speak to anyone about what had happened, as he did not want his identity revealed. She promised him she would keep it a secret. Then Ark noticed a large boar in the distance, and told Marka he would hunt it to offer the villagers as compensation. He charged off toward it. Later they returned to the village, and everyone was astonished by the size of the boar Ark had brought. Yona, Marka's mother, was among them. She ran to her daughter and embraced her tightly, saying she had feared something terrible had happened. Ark approached Yona and apologized for allowing Marka to leave without her permission, but Yona understood the situation. When she learned that her daughter had been helping her, she thanked Ark for protecting her. As the sun set, Ark bid farewell to Marka and her family and resumed his journey. That night, deep in the forest, we see a group of soldiers fighting a beast similar to the one Ark had slain. The battle was extremely difficult, and they barely managed to defeat it. The moment the creature died, the same strange bracelet Ark had seen before vanished. A blonde-haired soldier approached the commander and informed him that the battle had cost them many lives and injuries, and insisted he see something for himself. When the commander saw the corpse of the creature Ark had killed, he deduced that a single person must have defeated it in one blow. He was astonished and began to wonder, how could someone so powerful be in the same region as them? At that same time, we see Ark sitting in his room, eating with Panta, thinking to himself, starting tomorrow, I'll take on harder and more dangerous missions than before. Time passed. One night, Ark was walking inside a dark cave. Sounds of footsteps echoed, retreating, and frightened faces could be seen. In a single moment, Ark took them all down. They were a group of bandits, and this was a new mission from the guild to eliminate them. Amid the chaos, Ark noticed a strange curtain hanging inside the cave. He approached to see what was behind it, and was shocked to find a mountain of gold hidden there. He was thrilled at the thought of keeping it for himself, but what caught his attention even more than the gold were the open iron cages and empty food bowls scattered across the floor. He deduced that someone had been imprisoned here and had vanished, but he didn't care much, and began collecting the gold to continue on his way. Meanwhile, in an entirely different location, a magnificent palace stood. Inside, a man who seemed like a leader sat as his servant approached with a confidential report. The report stated that a mercenary squad had failed to kill Rowan, the daughter of the governor of Louvret province. It became clear that this man was the Marquis, the governor of Dento province, and he was the one who had orchestrated the attack on Lauren. The Marquis was shocked and said, "How does an entire mercenary squad fail against a mere girl?" The servant replied, "All the guards were killed, but it seems another mercenary crossed paths with them by chance and eliminated them." The Marquis grew furious and shouted, "One man? How is that possible?" He asked about the beasts they had brought from the Eastern Kingdom, only to be told both were dead, as they were still in the testing phase. Then he inquired about Prince Dacarius and why he was targeting Louvret province. The servant explained that a major conflict was brewing between the Eastern Kingdom and the Western Kingdom, and that their Northern Kingdom had two princes, Siket and Dacarius. Dacarius was receiving support from the Eastern Kingdom, while Louvret province was aligned with Siket, who in turn was backed by the Western Kingdom. If the Western Kingdom discovered their ties to Dacarius, they would destroy them instantly. The servant then spoke about a new product they were about to distribute on the market, and warned the Marquis not to attract the attention of Princess Yuriana. Finally, when asked about his son, the servant revealed that the Marquis's son had personally gone to oversee the product's distribution. Back to Ark, he was leaving the cave with his friend and the friend's daughter, carrying a bag full of gold. Suddenly, he was attacked by a swift sword strike, but Ark dodged it effortlessly and prepared for the second blow, which he blocked with his sword. When he looked ahead, he was stunned. It was the same elf he had seen earlier in the city. She spoke to him with hostility, demanding that he return the children he had kidnapped. It seemed she believed him to be one of the bandits. Ark tried to explain, "Wait, there's been a misunderstanding," but she snapped back, "I will never speak to a filthy human like you, especially one who preys on others." Just as she was about to strike, she suddenly froze upon seeing Panta. She whispered in disbelief, "How can a spiritual creature be with a human?" Ark was surprised and said, "A spirit creature? How? It's well known that spiritual beings are incredibly rare, and it's even rarer for them to approach humans willingly." At that moment, the elf explained to him that Pont chose to accompany him after Ark saved his life. Realizing that Ark had not lied, she apologized for attacking him. Ark accepted her apology and asked why she was in that area. She told him that a group of bandits had been kidnapping elf children and selling them as slaves. Ark then remembered the cages he had seen in the cave and told her that he hadn't found any children inside them. The elf concluded that she had arrived too late. Ark offered to help her, but she refused, saying, "This is our problem. We don't need help from humans." Her deep hatred for humans was obvious. She turned and left, while Ark stood there, lost in thought. That night, we see him sitting in his room eating and saying to himself, "I have to help her, no matter what." The next day, Ark entered the elves' forest, searching for the girl he had met the day before. Suddenly, he heard the scream of a young girl. He saw her running, and behind her was one of the bandits, grabbing her by force and shouting for his leader, who turned out to be Olden, the son of the regional governor himself. Olden was furious that they had only captured young girls. He drew his sword and said to the girl, "If you don't humiliate yourself before me, I'll hurt you." She begged and apologized, but he still slashed her with his sword while laughing. He then ordered his men to carry her to the cart. Ark had been watching everything from behind the trees. He was about to step in when suddenly the elf from yesterday appeared, and in one strike, she took down two of Olden's men. She shouted in anger, "I will kill you one by one." One of Olden's followers screamed, "She's a dark elf. Her price is incredibly high." They began to move toward her to surround her, but as soon as one got close, she severed his hand before he could touch her. A fierce battle began. She started killing them one after another, but Olden grabbed another young girl from the cage, pointed his sword at her, and threatened the elf, causing her to freeze to protect the children. Olden laughed, thinking he had won, but at that moment, Ark appeared behind him without any warning. He said to the elf, "I'm sorry, I can't keep my promise to stay out of this." Then he struck Olden so hard that he collapsed unconscious. The threat was over. The elf moved swiftly, and within seconds, the two of them eliminated the rest of the group. Then they rushed to the children to make sure they were okay, only to notice magical collars around their necks. Ark asked her about them, and she told him that these collars prevent them from using magic, which is why they couldn't escape. He asked if she could remove them, but she said no, as the enchantments were far too complex. Ark then used his curse-breaking magic and succeeded in removing the collars. The elf was astonished by his abilities, but the greater surprise came when he healed the injured girl using healing magic. In that moment, she realized that Ark wasn't just any knight. He was incredibly powerful. After freeing the children, the elf summoned her magical bird and sent a message to her tribe, asking them to come collect the children. Indeed, 2 elves arrived, took the children, and left. Then the elf asked Ark, "Who exactly are you?" She told him, "You possess unnatural magic and skills." Ark smiled and replied, "I'm just a warrior, and this bird is my travel companion." It was then that we learned the elf's name, Arya. She was one of the warriors of the elven tribe. She thanked Ark for everything he had done. At that moment, another bird arrived with a message indicating the location of a new kidnapping group. They were now in Dento province. Arya looked at Ark and asked, "Didn't you say you were a mercenary? I need your help. Will you join me?" Ark agreed immediately. Then we see him standing before Arya after she offered to work with him. He said, "Your friends might refuse my help." Arya replied, "There's a high chance they will. They're elves, and most of them don't trust humans." But she continued confidently, "I used to be like them. But when I saw you, I didn't see hatred or contempt in your eyes like I do with most humans. And a spirit creature trusts you. That doesn't happen easily." Ark responded, "If that's the case, I accept. Let's begin this journey together." They shook hands, and that was the beginning of their new alliance. Later, we see Ark using a teleportation gate to transport himself and Arya to a location near the Little River, with Dento province directly ahead of them. Arya was amazed by his ability to use this kind of magic so easily. She said, "You can use teleportation magic? That's extremely rare and difficult." Ark replied, "It will be very useful in our mission to rescue the kidnapped elves, but we must move carefully so we don't draw attention in the city." Shortly after, we see them in the streets, where Arya told him they were waiting for one of her allies, named Danka. Ark was excited, thinking that a beautiful elf girl would arrive, but he was disappointed when he heard a man's voice beside him. His hopes were crushed when Arya introduced the man as her friend Danka. Danka asked Arya about Ark, and she introduced him, saying, "He's the mercenary who helped me and agreed to join the mission." Then we see them sitting in a restaurant. Arya offered food to Ark, but he refused, even though he was hungry, because he couldn't remove his helmet. If he did, they would discover that he was a skeleton. Arya later told him that Danka wasn't just a friend, but also a warrior from her tribe. However, Danka seemed uneasy about Ark and talked a lot about irrelevant things. Arya tried to calm the situation and told Danka, "Ark is very powerful, and he can use teleportation magic." Danka was surprised, especially when he saw Pont and realized Ark had a spirit companion. That's when he started to believe Ark could be useful. He then asked Arya where the girls were being held. She replied that they were in the entertainment district, but since it was very active at the moment, they would wait until nightfall to move. Ark told them he would run some errands and return within an hour. He then took Ponta and set off. After his departure, Danka said to Arya, "I'm surprised you placed your trust in a stranger." She replied frankly, "If it weren't for Ark, I would be broken now. At this point, I see myself as a failed warrior. I'll never be like my sister even." Danka responded, "Even is indeed strong and would have finished the mission quickly, but this isn't the time for comparisons. With time and experience, you'll become like her, even stronger." Then he asked, "Can we really trust that man?" Arya looked at him with confidence and said, "Of course we can." Meanwhile, Ark had sold the loot he obtained from the gang, bought food with the proceeds, and chose to eat alone so that he wouldn't have to remove his helmet in front of anyone. We then moved to the prison where the elf girls were held. One of the guards informed his comrades that the delivery had been scheduled. They would hand over the girls the next morning. But one of the girls stood and declared, "Someone will come to save us, and when they do, all of you will be as good as dead." The guards mocked her and laughed, dismissing her words as nothing more than a fantasy. Night fell, and our team began to move, unaware that someone was observing them from a rooftop nearby. They reached the back entrance of the place, only to find it guarded heavily. Ark suggested using teleportation magic, but Arya warned him that the light might attract attention. However, Ark surprised them by using a short-range teleportation technique, allowing them to enter undetected. They moved cautiously inside the building and entered one of the rooms, where they found corpses and fresh bloodstains. clear evidence that someone else had been there before them. They decided to split up to find the children more quickly. Ark entered another room and found it filled with corpses as well. Suddenly, a weapon was thrown at him. It turned out that the one who had been watching them was a ninja girl. Ark noticed that she had a tail and ears like a cat's and immediately realized she was a ninja from her style. The girl was startled that he had seen through her and was about to attack him, but she stopped when she saw Ponta. She said, "It's impossible for someone with ill intentions to be trusted by a child with such innocence." They began talking, and she told him she was also there to save the girls. She informed him that the captives were being held in Elbow. Before leaving, she handed him some documents and said, "These will be useful. Also, there's an important piece of information. 2 elf girls are being held in the governor's mansion." The ninja left, and Ark opened the documents, only to be shocked. They were slave purchase records, and the name of Governor Dento was listed among them. He returned to Arya and Danka, showed them the papers, and said, "The girls are in Elboa, and 2 others are in the governor's mansion." Arya asked him, "Where did you get this information?" He kept the ninja's secret and said he had interrogated one of the guards. Then he asked, "What's your plan?" They replied, "We'll free the children first, then head to the governor's mansion." In the middle of the conversation, a guard entered and asked, "Who are you?" They tried to fight him, and Kree used fire magic to kill him. They moved toward the place where the girls were being held, killing anyone who stood in their way. They opened the cell, and Arya reassured the girls before they began escorting them out. Thus, they completed the first mission. Ark used teleportation magic to transfer them all outside the city. He noticed magical collars around the girls' necks and used curse removal magic to break them. Danka was stunned and said, "You can use curse removal magic that easily? No one can match you." Afterward, they agreed that Danka would take the girls to a safe location, while Ark and Arya would head to the governor's mansion to rescue the others. Ark then used instant teleportation and brought Arya with him to the mansion. At that moment, the ninja stood at a distance beside someone and said, "That knight understood what it means to be a ninja. I have a feeling we'll meet again soon." We then cut to a scene inside Governor Triton's mansion, where 2 elf girls were being brutally tortured, and even assaulted without mercy. His son, Olden, was present, the same one Ark had previously defeated when rescuing an elf girl. Triton scolded him for his failure and said, "You're a disgrace, useless. You let the elves be taken from you." Then we see Ark carrying Arya, using instant teleportation to reach the top of the mansion. Arya said confidently, "I'm sure the governor's room is at the top." Ark was surprised by her certainty. She also told him that they must proceed quietly, but upon entering the mansion they suddenly came face to face with guards. Ark tried to control the situation, but during the fight his sword accidentally struck a bell, shattering it and triggering the alarm, which echoed throughout the mansion. They quickly escaped from sight. Ark disguised himself as a statue to avoid detection. Once the guards left, they resumed moving. Meanwhile, Triton was still in his room. When he heard the commotion, he grew furious and went out to investigate. His servant told him that someone had broken into the mansion and appeared to be after something. He shouted, "Act immediately! Capture them!" Suddenly, the door behind the servant exploded open, sending him flying. Ark and Arya entered in a grand and fearsome scene. Triton asked, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Arya answered boldly, "We came to take the elf girls you imprisoned." The girls rejoiced at the sight of their rescuers and recognized Arya. At that moment, Olden panicked and tried to escape, but before he could move, Triton stepped forward. Arya struck him with a powerful blow to the lower abdomen, knocking him to the ground, then rushed to free the girls. At the same time, Olden tried to flee unnoticed, but Ark appeared in front of him and said coldly, "You won't escape from here." Olden fainted from sheer fear. As Ark tried to lift him, his hand touched the wall, which suddenly collapsed, revealing a secret room. Olden dashed inside and found a massive treasure hoard. Gold everywhere. Ark called out for Arya, but she was busy torturing Triton, telling him he had broken his pact with the elves and deserved punishment. She handed him over to the elves and told them, "Do with him as you please." Ark returned to the secret room and began gathering some of the gold. Suddenly, the girl entered and saw him. She asked in surprise, "What are you doing?" He replied seriously, "If this gold remains here, someone might use it to start a new organization to capture elves." The girl understood and agreed, letting him take what he needed. Moments later, violent explosions rocked the mansion. Ark asked Arya, "Were you the one behind those explosions?" She replied, "No, I have no idea where they came from." He quickly said, "We need to leave now." He opened a teleportation gate and transported them, with the gold and money, to a riverside far from the city. Ark began to think deeply, trying to figure out who was behind the explosions. He suspected that the ninja girl they had encountered earlier was responsible. At that moment, Ark said to Arya, "I've completed my mission with you." She remembered and handed him a pouch of money, saying, "This is your payment, though it won't be as much as what you got from above." She then asked about his next plan, and he replied that he wasn't sure yet and had no specific idea in mind. The girl offered that he accompany her to Elflatea, the land of the elves. Ark felt an overwhelming joy inside, but he asked her, will they even allow me there? Understanding his concern, Arya told him that to enter, he must meet someone known as the Chosen One and gain his permission. Ark said, I cannot remove the armor I wear. She replied, at the very least, you'll have to take it off in front of the Chosen One. She then asked, why don't you want to remove it at all? He answered nervously, you might attack me the moment you see my face. Arya reassured him that she wouldn't. At that moment, Ark began to remove his armor, and to her shock she discovered that he was nothing but a skeleton. She asked, what happened? Why do you look like this? He explained that he didn't know the exact reason, perhaps a curse, but he didn't want to tell her the full truth, that he had been playing a game and suddenly transformed into this character. Arya said, if you were truly undead, you wouldn't be able to use healing or light magic. Even a creature like Ponta wouldn't have grown so attached to you. She added, maybe the Chosen One has the answer, and promised to keep his secret safe. Ark agreed and extended his hand for a handshake. She shook it, marking the beginning of their new mission. In the next scene, we see the capital, Olaf, where King Carlin was seated with his children, discussing the assassination of Marquis Dento, governor of a province. He asked them whether the culprit had been identified. His eldest son, Prince Sect, answered, no, but there are rumors suggesting the elves were behind it. The king was surprised and said, why should we believe mere rumors? Sect replied, because Marquis Dento violated the treaty. He kidnapped elves and sold them as slaves. Princess Yuriana was shocked and said, he might have actually done that. But the third prince, Decrius, rejected the idea, saying, these are baseless rumors with no proof, and grew angry that his brother was doubting the Marquis. It is inappropriate to question the nobility of the kings based on empty talk, he said. The king ordered them to calm down, adding, no accusations without evidence. We must launch a thorough investigation. Decrius showed discontent at the decision, while Yuriana said, if these acts prove true, then the treaty with the elves will be broken, and this will affect our relationship with both the elves and the other kingdoms. We must act swiftly and begin negotiations before the situation worsens. The king ordered her to travel in person to start negotiations with the elves. At the same time, Ark and Arya were on their way to Elfland. As night approached, they were forced to camp by a river. They began fishing to prepare food, and the night passed peacefully. Elsewhere, Princess Yuriana appeared upset. Her maid asked, what's bothering you? Yuriana replied, I'm sure my brother Carius is involved in the elf trade, and I believe Sect knows and won't stay silent. The maid responded eagerly, if he falls, then only you and Sect remain for the throne. Yuriana grew angry and said, don't speak like that in front of me again. She added, we must focus on our mission. Our next stop is Limbot City, where our sister Syriana is married. I truly long to see her. Meanwhile, Ark and Arya finally arrived in Elfland, specifically the village of Latoya, one of the main elf settlements. Ark stood in awe at the massive, artistically carved wooden gate. Arya introduced herself to the gate guards, and after a short wait, the gate slowly opened. She said to Ark, you must wait here while I seek permission from the Chosen One. Ark and Ponta sat by the gate, waiting. Time passed. The sun set, and Arya was delayed for quite a while. When she finally returned, she apologized and told him that she had received permission from the Chosen One, the village's ruler, though the Chosen One was a title, not a name. Ark entered the village with Arya, captivated by the tree-built houses and the harmony between the elves and nature. Amid his awe, he noticed a massive tree in the village center. He asked Arya about it, and she replied, that tree is the Chosen One's home, meaning the ruler lives inside it. They entered the treehouse and found two people inside. Arya introduced them to Ark, revealing that they were her parents. The surprise hit Ark. Her father was the Chosen One, and his name was Dylan. Her mother's name was Glennis. Ark thought to himself in shock, so Arya is a princess. During the conversation, Dylan thanked Ark for helping his daughter but expressed concern that attacking the Marquise's estate might cause problems and strain relations between humans and elves. Arya tried to defend her actions, stating that it was the humans who broke the treaty first. Her father responded that the treaty only permitted attacking the kidnappers' hideouts, not noble estates. Ark intervened, saying the assault was necessary to rescue the captive elves and that he had witnessed the atrocities firsthand. Dylan listened and said he would present the matter to the Council of Elders and would demand documentation proving Marquis Dento's involvement in the elf trade. Arya insisted on joining him and explaining everything herself, and he agreed. Glennis entered carrying food and they all sat down to eat together. Ark hesitated to remove his helmet, but Arya reassured him that she had already told her parents everything about his condition. Feeling at ease, Ark removed his helmet for the first time in front of someone other than Arya and began to eat with them. On the following morning, Ark awoke to discover that Arya and her father had traveled to a village called Maple to attend the Senate Council meeting. Moments later, Glennis appeared and offered to take him on a tour around the village to introduce him to various places. As they wandered, Ark noticed that all the villagers were staring at him with astonishment. Soon after, he encountered two elves he had previously rescued. They thanked him for what he had done for them, then departed. The moment they left, Glennis surprised Ark with an unexpected request. She wished to duel him. At the same time, we moved to the village of Maple, where the Senate Council meeting was beginning, attended by the leaders of all the villages. Dylan began by explaining the situation, clarifying that they had attacked the mansion with the intent to rescue the captive elven women. However, one of the elders objected, saying that breaking a 400-year-old treaty was a crime that could open the door to war. Another elder suggested sending a message to the kingdom of Rodan to justify their actions. Suddenly, a third elder stood and warned that disclosing the details of what had happened might push the humans to demand the surrender of the attackers, an act that would portray the elves as weak. The discussion quickly became heated, but the chief interrupted them all, affirming that it was the humans who had broken the treaty first. However, attacking a marquise in his own mansion was a grave matter, and if news of it spread, it could cause further escalation. He emphasized that the operations to liberate the elves must continue, but with extreme caution. Meanwhile, the scene returned to Ark and Glennis, who were preparing for their duel. Ark was hesitant, afraid he might hurt her, but she reassured him, saying, "Don't worry, I'm not just Arya's mentor, I'm also one of the elves born with innate power." She added, "Since you'll be accompanying my daughter on her journey, I must test your strength." The battle began. Glennis launched into a swift attack. Ark tried to dodge but was struck and knocked to the ground. Nevertheless, Glennis began offering him advice on his combat style, then called out to him again, "Come on. Get up, let's continue." In his heart, Ark said, "I must learn the art of the sword." But no matter how hard he tried, he could not overcome her. Every time he attacked, she parried his strikes with ease. Meanwhile, Arya and her father were on their way back from the meeting. She apologized to him, but he told her her intentions were good and that he would allow her to continue her mission to liberate the elves. He also officially declared that Ark would join her as an official companion. On the road, the father remembered they were near the home of his other daughter, Ivan, and suggested visiting her. Arya was shocked when he told her that Ivan was getting married next year. "Ivan?" she exclaimed. She was obsessed with fighting. How did she suddenly decide to marry? But soon enough, Ivan appeared, running toward them and embracing Arya tightly. Their reunion was deeply emotional. Ivan told Arya that she was proud of her and had heard about the number of elves she had rescued. But Arya, feeling shy, replied that she still had a long way to go. They all sat for a while, chatting and discussing Ivan's engagement. Then Arya bid farewell, and they continued on their way. We return once again to Ark, still dueling with Glennis. Exhausted and worn out, he decided to try a new move. Suddenly, he used instant teleportation and appeared behind her. Glennis was caught off guard, but quickly composed herself and used her incredible speed to land several swift blows, knocking him down once more. Laughing, she said, "That's enough sparring for today. I've got work to do." Ark sat on the ground and said to himself, "She possesses a level of skill that's no joke. Even if my stats are high, real power requires more than just numbers." That night, as everyone gathered, Dylan came to inform them of the results of the council meeting. He said, "The council has decided to investigate the elven abduction case further, while continuing the rescue of those still imprisoned. That's why we need your help, Ark. As a companion." He added, "The Chosen One can't give you much gold, but he can offer you valuable information. There's a spring near a kingdom called Crown Sovereign, and it is said that this spring can dispel any curse." Ark asked about the location, and learned that Crown Sovereign is a vast forest where giant trees grow, and where the Dragon Lord, the most powerful type of dragon, resides. Because of its presence, humans avoid the area. Ark asked, "Then how will we enter?" Arya replied that the elves might request permission to enter, and if granted, she would accompany and assist him. Ark smiled and said, "I would be honored to defend you with my sword." Later that night, as Ark lay in bed, he began to reflect on the curse that afflicted him. Could it be? I'm truly cursed? He wondered. He decided to try a curse-breaking spell, casting it on his hand. To his shock, his hand transformed into a human form. He stared at it in disbelief, but it didn't last long. Soon, it reverted to its skeletal form. He kept trying, again and again. Each time, the hand returned to bones. At that moment, a serious doubt began to grow in his mind. Is my body really under the influence of a powerful curse? The next morning, Ark and Arya set off on their new journey, heading toward Olaf, the capital of the kingdom, to continue the investigation into the elven smuggling case. Ark recalled what happened to him the night before, and he was nearly certain that this was a regenerating curse, a curse that would reset itself no matter how many times he tried to dispel it. Arya noticed his silence and asked, "What's wrong?" He replied, "It's nothing, everything's fine." Moments later she told him they were about to exit the forest. Once they emerged, they were shocked to see giant insects charging at them. Ark began running away like a little child, screaming and laughing. A short while later they were sitting in a small restaurant. Arya teasingly asked him, "Are you afraid of bugs?" He replied, "Of course I'm afraid, especially when they're that big and chasing me." She then opened the map and began explaining the route they would take the next day. She said that people usually go around the forest and rent carriages, but they had decided to take the shortcut, going straight through the heart of the forest. Ark agreed, determined to reach their destination quickly and rescue the imprisoned elves. At that moment, the elderly woman who owned the restaurant was listening to them. She approached and warned them that the forest had become extremely dangerous and that the last 10 people who entered it had been attacked. Arya tried to hide her concern, but Ark reassured her, saying they had to cross the forest to free the imprisoned elves and that the monsters would pose no obstacle for them. We then shift to where Princess Yuriana was, as she was leaving in the royal carriage headed toward the city of Limblot. Meanwhile, a masked figure stood atop a distant tower, silently watching her, his face hidden. Back to Ark and Arya, they walked through the forest until they reached its center, the area rumored to be where monsters typically appear. Ark asked her what she was thinking about. She replied, "The wolves the old woman spoke of are called the haunted wolves. Their tails are incredibly soft and are used as wedding gifts. My sister's getting married soon, and I want to get one of those tails as a gift for her." Amid this conversation, they both sensed something moving around them and immediately prepared for battle. A wolf lunged at Ark, but with a single strike he split it in half. To their surprise, the wolf vanished. It had been an illusion. The rest of the pack appeared and attacked Arya, but they too turned out to be illusions. Ark began to remember that this type of wolf relied on deception and illusion, attacking in groups under the leadership of a highly intelligent alpha. He tried to counterattack, but the number of wolves kept growing wildly, and the illusions wouldn't stop. At that moment, Arya launched a fireball at one of the wolves, but when more came, she drew upon the power of earth and, in a single blow, wiped out all the surrounding beasts. Ark was amazed by her strength and thought to himself that she truly was a skilled warrior. He then realized that the only way to win was to kill the alpha. He looked up and saw the alpha wolf standing on a distant cliff. Ark used his teleportation technique to instantly appear beside it and tried to strike, but the wolf dodged. He noticed a familiar bracelet on the wolf's leg, the same kind he had seen before on the lizard monsters. Suddenly, another wolf appeared behind him and launched a sneak attack, but Ark's cloak automatically unleashed a magical strike, sending the wolf flying. Ark seized the opportunity and shattered the bracelet on the alpha wolf's leg. The wolf then stood, looking around as if confused about its surroundings. It let out a loud howl to call the pack, then withdrew without attacking Arya. Arya arrived at that moment and saw the bracelet disappearing. Ark explained to her what had happened and told her he had seen the same bracelet on the lizard beast. He concluded that the presence of these monsters was no coincidence. Someone was behind all this. Arya then took one of the wolf's tails to gift to her sister. Soon after, we see Princess Yuriana's carriage continuing on its path. Her maid Verna spoke to her and asked, "You seem tense." The princess replied, "This mission was ordered by the king, and it's supposed to be secret, but I don't feel safe. I suspect that my brother is involved in the slave trade." Suddenly, the carriage shook as enemies appeared on the road ahead. At that same moment, Ark was waiting for Arya to finish, contemplating his abilities. "I have so many skills, but if I don't know how to use them properly, they'll go to waste." He then decided to ask Arya to train him, but suddenly Ponta sensed something and began to move. Ark told Arya to stay put and followed Ponta. Meanwhile, back at the carriage, it was surrounded by enemies with only Yuriana and Verna inside. One of them approached the door. Verna readied her dagger, but in a fatal instant, she was stabbed through the heart. The princess panicked and rushed to her, only to be stabbed as well. The mercenaries stood overjoyed, revealing that a traitorous soldier had helped them and handed their leader the princess's pendant. But in the midst of all this, Ponta jumped onto the traitorous soldier's face. As he struggled to pull her off, Ark appeared, grabbed his arm, and broke it. Ark stood unfazed, his eyes fixed on the princess. The mercenaries attacked him from behind, but their attacks had no effect. Suddenly, the wolves returned and helped Ark, repaying him for what he did for their leader. Ark swiftly eliminated the mercenaries, then rushed to save the princess. He used a magical resurrection spell and successfully healed her, then healed Verna as well. He tried to save the other soldiers, but some of their injuries were too severe for him to treat. The princess slowly opened her eyes and saw Ark surrounded by a golden aura. Mistaking mistaking him for an angel before fainting again. She later awoke to Verna's voice, shocked because she had seen her die. Verna told her, "I woke up without a scratch." That confirmed to the princess that it wasn't a dream. "It must be a miracle," she whispered. Later, she gathered the soldiers and addressed them, declaring that they must continue their journey as they carried a great responsibility. From a distance, Ark watched and said, "I thought she was just a noble, but she's truly royalty." After that, he returned to Arya. She asked, "You took your time. Where were you?" But he didn't tell her the truth. They were ready to continue their journey to the capital. Upon arrival, Ark was fascinated by the city's lively atmosphere. Suddenly, they noticed a quarrel in the crowd. A young girl spotted Ark and approached him, saying, "I'm glad to see you again." She was the same ninja girl he had met at the Marquise's mansion. Arya asked Ark who the girl was, as he hadn't told her about her before. Ark explained that she was the one who had given him information about the elves being enslaved in the Marquise's palace. She introduced herself as Chiyome, one of the 6 ninja of the Genjin clan, and told them they needed to go somewhere private to speak. Later, we see them sitting in a hotel room. Ark and Arya introduced themselves to Chiyome, who started with an odd question. "Did you have gold when you first met me?" Ark was confused by the question and thought to himself that she looked like a ninja anyway, so why ask? But then he remembered that kind of thinking was from his original world. He replied, "In my homeland, there are spies who wear the same clothes. We call them ninja." Chiyome told him that the name ninja was known only within their clan, a closely guarded secret. The great founder of the clan had given them that name when he established it. That meant Ark and the founder came from the same homeland. He asked her if the founder was still alive, and she replied that it had been 600 years ago. That made Ark suspect that someone else like him had been transported to this world 6 centuries ago. Arya then spoke and asked Chiyome what matter she wanted to discuss. Chiyome, clearly distressed, hesitated before saying that she needed their help to free her captured companions, demi-humans. She promised them valuable information about the people they were seeking in return, but Ark replied that unfortunately he couldn't help her because he was committed to helping Arya on her mission. Still, deep down, he wished he could. He then turned to Arya and asked for her opinion. Arya felt sympathy for Chiyome because her life mirrored her own, so she decided that she and Ark would help her. At the same time, in a completely different part of the royal palace, we see Prince Karyas in a state of extreme anger, as the Haunted Ones were no longer responding to commands as they once did. One of those present interjects, saying, "It's possible that someone has broken the seal." Karyas sharply asks him, "Does that mean Yuriana is still alive?" The man responds, "So far, they haven't been able to determine her location. It seems she is acting with great caution." Karyas ponders, wondering, could it be that she is with the elves and negotiating with them? But Stryon, his escort, intervenes and clarifies that all intelligence indicates those behind these actions resemble the elves. Dakaros becomes more anxious and wonders, could they be targeting my life? Stryon replies, "You have a safe house. It's best to hide there temporarily." After the prince departs, we see Stryon standing still, wrapping around his hand the necklace the princess had worn during the attack. We now return to the group inside the forest. Ark asks Chiyome about the Great Founder, and she replies that he was a human named Hanzo, who gathered oppressed humans and beast folk and protected them under his care, thus founding their clan. Ark becomes certain that Hanzo was a transferred human like himself, and probably Japanese based on the name. They then arrive at a place called Atsat, the largest slave market in the capital. The market is crowded with beast folk, and we overhear 2 individuals speaking, saying that they are close to reaching the required number before the delivery. We discover that they are acting under the orders of Prince Karyas. Inside one of the cells, we see the bodies of dead individuals covered up. Back to Chiyome, she explains the plan to everyone, clarifying that Atsat is the most important slave prison in the capital, and if they attack it directly, it will draw attention and may provoke a response from the royal army. She proposes a direct assault followed by a swift escape, because at the same time, her comrades will be attacking 4 other slave markets. Ark realizes that Atsat will serve as bait, but this could put the prisoners inside at great risk. Chiyome responds sadly, "Not everyone will survive, but we must sacrifice some to save the rest. With Buam's support, we can reduce the number of casualties." Preparations begin. Ark suggests using teleportation, and Chiyome recalls what she saw in the Marquis's palace, becoming certain it was real, and that Ark uses a technique similar to the Chrono Gate employed by the founder. Ark asks her about the story, and she excitedly replies that this is the exact same technique the founder used. Ark tells her it's just a spell, and that he only uses it to rescue the prisoners in Atsat. Chiyome informs her comrades and moves to alert everyone that the attack will be tonight. We move to Ark and Ariane as they prepare and go to eat. Then we see them at night in the forest with Ark wearing a mask for disguise. Chiyome arrives with a member of her clan named Gali, and she tells them he is one of the 6 ninja. Ark is surprised by the name, as he recognizes it as the name of a famous ninja from his world. He asks Chiyome, "Is your real name Chiyome?" She replies, "No, that's just a title among 6 titles granted to the most talented in the clan." Arc becomes certain that Hanzo came from his world, since he used famous ninja names as titles. The attack begins. Ariane and Chiyome strike from the back gate, while Arc and Gali head to the front gate to distract the guards. The guards spot Arc and Gali and warn them not to come closer. Suddenly, one of them charges and breaks through the gate. Arc begins the assault using earth magic, hurling massive boulders at the guards. Gali uses the iron oxidation technique that breaks every weapon it touches. Then they perform a joint attack, where stone spikes erupt from the ground, piercing through the rocks and destroying the area completely. At the same time, Ariane and Chiyome enter from the back gate, which is unguarded because the soldiers are occupied with Arc and Gali. Chiyome has the key and easily opens the door, and they enter quickly and carefully to reach the slaves, but 2 soldiers notice them and Chiyome uses one of her skills to kill them in a single strike. The sound of battle reaches another group of guards who rush toward the source, but Ariane activates her flame-enhanced sword and swiftly kills them. They begin descending the stairs to where the slaves are held. Chiyome introduces herself as a member of the Genshin clan and opens the cells for the slaves to escape. Some guards appear, but Ariane gives them no chance and kills them instantly. At the same time, Arc and Gali emerge from the rubble of the destroyed building and meet up with Chiyome and Ariane, who inform them that they've freed all the slaves except those in the back building. Arc says that reinforcements are approaching, so Gali decides to stay behind to delay them and asks Arc to move forward with Chiyome. Arc, Marcotte, and Chiyome enter the building, fighting off anyone in their way until they find a strange door leading to an underground tunnel. They descend and reach the cells, beginning to free the slaves. Chiyome pauses before a particular cell and feels something strange, a foul stench emanating from within. When she enters, she finds the cell filled with the corpses of her own clan members. One of the female prisoners tells her that the sick and wounded are not sold and are left to die here. Chiyome is deeply affected and apologizes for being late, but Arc comforts her saying, "We must first move the others to a safe place before reinforcements arrive." At that moment, Arc's prediction comes true, as we find Gali standing at the prison entrance, holding off the reinforcements alone. Then Arc uses his teleportation magic to transport the slaves group after group until all are relocated. After the evacuation is complete, Arc tells both Ariane and Chiyome that he will leave the slaves under their protection and go to end this chaos himself. He then reaches Gali and sees that the guards are stunned by his strength, but Gali looks exhausted. Gali says, "Everyone inside is now free." Then the two fight side by side, launching a joint attack that destroys the entire area. As the battle rages, they use the teleportation gate and return to Ariane, Chiyome, and the rest of the freed slaves. Chiyome is surprised when she sees that Arc brought with him the bodies of her fallen clanmates, and a sorrowful scene begins as they perform the cremation rites with utmost respect. After some time had passed, the scene shifts to Dicarius, who appeared consumed by fury due to the complete absence of news and the lack of any updates. He decides to act himself and investigate the situation, but just as he stands still, he is taken by surprise when he is suddenly stabbed by his trusted servant, Sterion. Dicarius collapses to the ground, stunned and unable to comprehend what had just happened. In a trembling voice he asks, "Why did you do this?" But it is already too late, for he breathes his last breath. Suddenly, a strange man enters and thanks Sterion for his betrayal. It turns out that this man is none other than Prince Sect himself, and it becomes clear that he was the one who orchestrated everything from the beginning, waiting patiently for the perfect moment to eliminate Dicarius. With a wicked smile, he admits that he was also the one who pulled the strings behind the conspiracy involving Princess Yuriana. Sterion then hands him Yuriana's pendant, explaining that it was brought by one of the fleeing soldiers, and that everyone now believes the princess has been killed. Sect decides to officially announce Yuriana's death, claiming that she was murdered in a conspiracy plotted by Dicarius. He throws the pendant beside the corpse as damning evidence. As he walks away, he leans toward Dicarius's lifeless body and whispers, "This was your end, because you betrayed the Eastern Kingdom." Then he adds slyly, "The throne of Ramadan is now mine alone." The next morning, we are taken to a new scene where we find Arc and the group aboard a boat sailing far from the battlefield. Arc turns to his companion Akame and asks about their next destination. She informs him that they are heading to a hidden village on a mountain called Calcott, where she will share with them all the information she had promised. Meanwhile, we shift to the city Yuriana had traveled to, where she finally arrives. She rushes to her sister and embraces her tightly, telling her how overjoyed she is that she is still alive, especially after the news had spread that Dicarius had killed her. Her sister is shocked and demands details. Yuriana explains that much has happened in the capital, including the fact that Dicarius was killed by Sterion, and that Sect has now become the legitimate heir to the throne. However, Yuriana adds that this alone does not prove he was the one who orchestrated the attack on her, but her sister tells her that her pendant was found beside Dicarius's corpse, which certainly points to Sect's involvement. Yuriana begins to connect the dots and says, if I was attacked at the exact same moment Dicarius was killed, then is it possible that Sect planned all of this? Still, she realizes that the most important thing now is that she is alive, and she prevents her sister from informing the king. She insists that the matter must remain a secret, and she requests her sister's help in continuing her mission regarding the elven negotiations, as the future of both elves and humans now hangs in the balance. We return to Arc and Arya, who had separated from the rest of the group. Arya sends her bird to Danka to deliver the information they have uncovered. As they travel, they recall the information Kaiomi had shared with them, revealing that the captured elven slaves were sold in the kingdom of Revilion, which is the Eastern Kingdom. They immediately decide to journey there. We then move to the kingdom of Revilion and arrive at the capital, where the imperial palace stands. News reaches the emperor that Dicarius has been killed by Prince Sect. It is revealed that the emperor had been the one supplying him with the monster rings. He asks about Princess Yuriana and is told that she has died. It becomes evident that the emperor had a role in the events and that he had planned for monsters to attack her but failed. He deduces that she wasn't killed by monsters but by someone else, and he realizes that Sect must have been behind it all. He inquires about a man named Famba and is told that the Nation Breaker plan is proceeding as intended. In another scene, we are taken to a vast desert teeming with gigantic monsters, dragons, colossal worms, and more. Amidst them stands a mysterious, awe-inspiring figure whose face remains hidden. We return to Arc and Arya as they make their way toward the Eastern Kingdom, crossing a desert region where the skies are swarming with flying creatures that resemble small dragons, called wyverns. Arya lifts her gaze to the sky and remarks that there are far too many wyverns, which is why messenger birds cannot pass through the area. She explains that she has been completely unable to contact Danka. At this moment, Arc tells her that he has a plan to eliminate these creatures. He begins his preparations, then unleashes a massive spell that lights up the sky with lightning. The electric strikes rain down upon the wyverns, sending them fleeing in terror. Arc then lets out a sinister laugh, as if a demon had awakened inside him. But as the storm clears, he turns and sees Arya and Pont lying on the ground, wounded from the overwhelming force of his spell. He rushes to them to offer aid. At the same time, a figure is seen watching Arc from atop a mountain, holding a scroll and writing down everything he observes. Sometime later, we find Arc, Arya, and the rest of the group sitting in a small inn, discussing where they will go next. Arya begins explaining the route that leads to the Emperor's palace. However, Arc notices that she seems tense and troubled. He asks her why, and she responds that the Eastern Kingdom is nothing like the West. The elves here live in constant danger, and she is deeply worried about the fate of the captured elves. As they speak, a strange man approaches and asks if they were the ones responsible for the magic that occurred that morning. He introduces himself as Krasi, and the shocking twist is that he is the very same person who had been observing them earlier. Arya realizes he is a reader elf and quickly covers his ears, scolding him for entering a human village so openly. But to her surprise, everyone in the village knows Krasi and treats him normally. He sits with them and explains that he has lived in this village for 10 years and that everyone there knows and loves him. Arya grows angry and shouts, "How can you live among humans for 10 years knowing what they've done to us?" Krasi responds calmly, flipping the argument around. "And you say that, while you, a dark elf, travel alongside a human and a spirit creature?" Arya is taken aback and replies shyly, explaining that Arc is a special case. Arc then asks Krasi why he came to them. Krasi tells them that he is a biologist who studies monster behavior, but recently the creatures have become wildly aggressive. He asks if they could hunt some monsters for him, or at least bring him their corpses. But Arya interrupts him and says they have a greater mission, and no time to spare. Suddenly, Krasi pulls out a map and presents it to them, saying it will lead them directly to the Empire of Revilion. Arya, surprised, looks at him and asks, "Were you eavesdropping on us or something?" But Arc quickly interrupts her and says that this map will be extremely useful to them. Krasi also promises to give them a copy of his research book on the monsters. Arc becomes visibly excited, glancing at Arya with a childlike look in his eyes, and asks her if they should accept the mission. Instantly, she agrees. Krasi informs them that he will wait for them at the village gate in the morning. As night falls, we see Arc and Arya alone together in a room. Arya sits in silence, reflecting on the idea of how elves and humans could ever coexist. The night passes and dawn breaks. They meet Crossy, apologize for the delay, and begin the journey. They ride in 2 carriages, but Arya grows uneasy and complains about the smell. Crossy reveals that the carriages are carrying monster corpses. They are using them as bait to lure the sandworm. Ark, curious, asks for more details about the monster they're hunting. Crossy explains the worm is 5 meters long, hides underground during the day, and emerges at night to hunt. Its weakness is fire, and it typically appears in wyvern-inhabited areas. As he finishes explaining, Arya notices that the other carriage has vanished. Suddenly, a gigantic sandworm bursts out from beneath the earth. It's nearly 30 meters long. Ark is stunned and says he's never seen a creature like it before. Arya sees that the other carriage has been destroyed, and that the man inside it is injured. She immediately launches a fire attack at the worm, but it has no effect. The worm charges at them, but Ark jumps in at the last second, grabbing the beast with superhuman strength and slamming it into the ground. At the center of the worm's body, they notice what looks like a ring. When Ark defeats the creature, the ring disappears. They take the monster's body back to the village. Crossy gives them the map and the research book, thanking them for their help. Arya looks at him and asks, "Why do you live among humans?" Crossy answers simply, "Because I love them." He continues saying that people who've never lived among humans often have a negative perception of them, but those who truly know them can see another side entirely. He adds, "I believe that one day, elves and humans will live together in peace." Arya shakes her head and replies, "That's nearly impossible." But Crossy surprises her, saying there is a city called Lambroth, where the ruler married an elf woman. Arya gets flustered and assumes he's suggesting she should marry a human, but Crossy quickly explains that the elf woman had been a worshipper and the ruler saved her life. That's how their love story began. Arya falls silent. The group bids Crossy farewell and continues on their journey. Later we see Ark and Arya standing in front of a large gate, the entrance to the city of Kaisk, which lies on the border between 2 nations. Officially, they have now entered the Eastern Kingdom. The moment they arrive, they notice heavy security throughout the city, which makes sense given its location. Arya realizes that finding information about the elves here will be far more difficult, so they decide to split up and search separately, agreeing to meet again at sunset. Each of them sets off through the city, gathering what information they can. Ark continues asking around until sunset. Sitting down to collect his thoughts, he recalls that he heard about a fortress in the east that emits strange noises at night. He also learned that monsters have started appearing at the city's edges, and that there have been numerous disappearances lately. However, there's still no information about the elves. He decides to meet up with Arya, but suddenly he hears a scream. He rushes toward the sound and finds a girl being cornered by a group of men. One of them tells her they're going to take her to her friend and moves to attack. Just then, Ark appears and grabs his hand. The others try to fight Ark, but in a matter of seconds, he defeats all of them. The girl runs to Ark and hugs him tightly, trembling with fear. A few moments later, Arya arrives, bringing some new information. But when she sees the girl clinging to Ark, she becomes visibly upset and asks, "Who's this?" Ark explains that the men were trying to harm her and he intervened to protect her, but the girl remains silent while Arya, clearly jealous, snaps at her, "You don't look hurt to me. You should go home." They leave the area, but Ark notices that Arya's behavior has changed. He asks if something is bothering her. She responds angrily, "Nothing," and they continue walking in silence. Meanwhile, we see the group of men Ark defeated standing inside the fortress. In front of them stands Famba, the same man the Emperor had mentioned before. A massive tiger stands beside him. Famba glares at them and shouts, "You're useless, can't even bring me food." He then says that they'll be the food instead. The tiger lunges at them and begins devouring them, turns to the monsters in the pit and says, "Don't worry, your real meal is coming soon." Back to Ark and Arya, now standing in the distance, staring at the fortress. Arya tells Ark she discovered that an elf had been seen here 4 months ago. Ark replies, 4 months is a long time. She might be dead. But Arya insists it's an important clue. They begin sneaking toward the fortress. Without anyone noticing, they slip into the building. The hallways are eerily empty. Suddenly, Arya steps on a brick in the wall, and a secret door opens. As they descended the stairs, a pungent scent of beasts filled the air. They continued downward until they reached a massive gate guarded by 2 sentinels. Ark lunged at one, while Arya attacked the other, knocking them both unconscious. They opened the door, only to find themselves inside an underground prison. The prison was filled with cells, and Arya noticed a patch of animal fur lying on the ground. They kept moving forward until they reached another door. Upon opening it, they discovered a vast subterranean space reeking of blood. Amidst this eerie scene, Famba appeared with careless ease and mockery, saying, "Who are you? And what brings you here? You've arrived just in time. I was about to feed my beast." Then his gaze fell upon Arya, and he admired her. He said, "You will be mine from this day forth. Kill the scrap beside you and come." Ark tried speaking to her, but was stunned when she attacked him. From her eyes, it became clear that Famba was controlling her. Ark asked, "What have you done to her?" Famba sneered and replied, "You'd better worry about yourself, that's all." During the fight, Arya grabbed Ark and pinned him to the ground. Then she removed the hood from her head, and Famba's face lit up with joy upon realizing she was a dark elf. He commanded her to kill Ark immediately. Ark thought to himself, clearly she is under a spell. He attempted to use curse-breaking magic, but it was in vain. Arya continued attacking blindly. Then we see her standing in a dreamlike realm, where her sister appeared and said to her, "Wake up, you must continue your training. In this weakness, you'll save no one." Back in reality, Arya was still attacking Ark, who refused to strike back and continued his efforts to lift the curse, to no avail. Then he looked toward Famba and noticed he wasn't using any magic. He also saw something strange atop Arya's head, and it seemed he understood what was happening. He called out to Binta, who leapt toward Arya and slipped beneath her cloak, revealing a hidden beast. Ark struck the beast with a powerful fire attack and killed it. Arya collapsed and lost consciousness. Famba spoke with mockery. "Clever Ark. You deserve a prize." That's when they realized he was a beast mage, and his core ability was controlling them. Ark noticed the magical rings in Famba's possession, and understood they were the cause behind the wild beasts they had encountered earlier. Famba said, "Tonight you shall be dinner for my pet." A colossal tiger appeared behind him and threw Ark to the ground. The tiger asked, "Where are the elves who were here 4 months ago?" Famba replied, "I don't quite remember. Creatures from all races come here. But now that you mention it, most of them were sent to the Empire for magical experiments, and the rest were devoured by my beast. There was a girl who screamed, but when I tore her limbs apart, she fell silent." Amid his wicked laughter, the tiger's head was suddenly severed and hit the ground. Ark, enraged, declared, "There will be no mercy for you today." Famba responded, "You'll have to do better than that to kill me." He struck the ground with his whip, summoning an enormous wave of monsters. They attacked Ark, but with his sword and a few swift strikes, he brought down colossal creatures with ease. At that moment, Famba warned, "Watch your friend." Ark turned toward Arya and saw a monster attacking her, but suddenly, a water spell enclosed the beast. Chiyomi had appeared. Ark was surprised and asked, "How did you get here?" She replied, "Arya knew, but she didn't tell you." That's when Ark realized it was Chiyomi who had provided Arya with the information. Meanwhile, the entire place began to shake. Famba laughed and said, "Finally, the feast has awakened. You're late." Then he sought to show them his masterpiece as the ground around them began to collapse. Ark tried to pursue Famba, but Chiyomi called out, "We must save Arya first." Ark carried her, and with Chiyomi's help, used teleportation magic to escape before the area crumbled. They emerged on the surface. When Ark looked ahead, he was shocked. The legendary beast Hydra had awakened, a massive creature with 5 heads, and it was clear that tremendous destruction was imminent. Later, we see Ark and the group after escaping, with Chiyomi standing before the beast, unable to believe that a human could control such a creature. Ark looked at Hydra and noticed 5 magical rings affixed to its body. Chiyomi said, "We must prepare ourselves well before confronting it. This beast is no ordinary foe." They decided to retreat, but unfortunately Hydra noticed them and stared with a terrifying gaze. Ark quickly warned them and said to Chiyomi, "We must be extremely cautious." But before they could move, Hydra attacked. Meanwhile, Famba sat watching the scene unfold, laughing confidently, saying, "The failures have been wiped out." Then he added, "But before I go on, my lord, let us return a bit to the past." We go back to Famba's memories. He's seen in his tribe, arguing with some members, saying, "I deserved recognition, not neglect." The elders responded, "Your power is superficial, too weak to stand among the front lines." Next he's shown standing before the emperor, who recognized him and said, "I am a beast mage." The emperor replied, "If you prove your worth to the empire, I shall grant you a position beyond your dreams." Thus ended the memories of the past. Back in the present, Famba stood elated with Hydra's power, his eyes gleaming with joy. He said arrogantly, "With this strength, no one can stop me. Master Bia will bow before me." He then commanded Hydra to head toward the city and destroy everything in its path. Yet, amid the ruins, the group reappeared. It turned out that Ark's shield had activated at just the right moment and saved them. Chiyomi expressed her astonishment. How could this shield withstand a blow capable of leveling an entire fortress? At that moment, they searched for Arya, but couldn't find her. Suddenly, she appeared above them, floating, her body surrounded by strange energy. She said that Famba's control over her was due to a moment of weakness, that she had been aware of everything, but powerless to resist. Then she looked at Ark with a gaze full of strength and determination and said, "We will bring him down, Ark, and make him regret everything he's done to our kind." She added, "Famba thinks we're dead. This is the perfect time for an ambush." But when she called out to Ark, he didn't reply. He stood silently, then said, "Hydra is now heading toward the city. Are we going to let it?" Chiyomi responded with realism. We can't face a beast like that. Even its name is terrifying. I've heard it can obliterate entire nations. But Ark refused to accept that. With firm resolve, he said, I'll handle it alone. Meanwhile, we shift to the Emperor's palace, where his servant informed him that Hydra's evolution was complete, and that Famba's magical rings were ready, but they still needed Famba to control the beast. The Emperor placed a hand on his chin and said, I shall decide Famba's fate myself. Back in the city, alarms were blaring. The commander ordered civilians to evacuate to the outskirts. Soldiers prepared for battle as Hydra readied its attack. Just as it was about to strike, a sudden blow from the sky blocked its path. Indeed, it was a strike from Ark's sword who had intervened, but to everyone's shock, the blow did nothing to Hydra, not even a scratch. Hydra retaliated, striking at Ark, who evaded it and swiftly countered with a blow to its abdomen. Then, moving beside one of its heads, he delivered a powerful strike, severing one head and sending it crashing to the ground. In the midst of everything happening, Famba is struck with shock upon discovering that Ark is still alive, despite the blow he had previously received from the Hydra. The Hydra prepares for a new assault, readying 3 of its heads to strike Ark all at once. Yet Ark teleports and dodges the attack. But suddenly, one of the heads grabs him midair and pins him down, allowing the other 3 to lunge at him. Ark is stunned and exclaims, "Is it willing to sacrifice an entire head just to kill me?" The heads come crashing down on him, but his magical shield activates, protecting him completely, and the head holding him vanishes entirely. At that moment, Ark decides to use a high-tier skill exclusive to the Holy Knights. He opens an enormous gate above the Hydra, from which descends a colossal sword. With a single mighty strike, he cuts through the 3 heads at once, but his joy is short-lived, for the heads begin to regenerate again. Then Ark resorts to a type of magic he has never used before, declaring that its maximum limit is only 5 minutes. He opens a summoning gate and calls forth a hellish beast named Evert. Evert appears before the Hydra, his features marked by full readiness for battle. Meanwhile, Arya and Kiyomi are running through the forest when they notice the beast Ark has summoned. They also see Bonta moving in a certain direction and follow him until they reach Famba, who is still attempting to control the Hydra. Amidst all this, Arya launches a fiery strike at Famba, but he dodges it and says, "Have you come to kill me? Didn't you witness the power of the Hydra?" She responds, "That's the Hydra's power, not yours. You are nothing." Her words infuriate him, and he recalls what had happened to him in the past, using his voice to summon the beasts that had attacked them before. The beasts charge, but Arya eliminates them all in mere seconds, saying, "Don't expect me to fall into the same trap twice." Famba loses his temper and commands the Hydra to attack them, but Kiyomi catches him off guard and strikes the mark on his body, the tattoo that had granted him control over the Hydra. And so, the Hydra is fully freed, no longer under any control. In the heat of it all, Arya draws her sword and approaches Famba with the intent to kill. He tries to use his voice to attack her, but her magic burns him instantly. He screams, "I was only following the Emperor's orders." But Arya replies, "No need for apologies, send them to him when you see him." Then she delivers a fatal stab and burns him to nothingness. At that moment, we see Evert attacking the Hydra, tearing off 2 of its heads in a single blow. The Hydra becomes frightened, realizing it is no match for Evert, and attempts to flee. But Ark blocks its path, grabs its tail, and hurls it into the air. Then he commands Evert to strike, and Evert obeys with a crushing blow that completely vaporizes the Hydra, leaving not a trace behind. Moments later, morning breaks, and Ark moves to check on Arya and Kiyomi. Just then, a message bird arrives to Arya, carrying a letter from Denka, informing her that Princess Yuriana has received an elder from the Alpha people named Fangaz, and that Arya's father was present with them. Meanwhile, we shift to Yuriana, seated with Fangaz and Arya's father. She tells them that the mission to search for the Alpha will now fall under the responsibility of the Kingdom of Rodan, and declares that it was the humans who first broke the pact. She swears to atone for that sin. Fangaz responds, "I am pleased with your offer, but what is the true reason behind it?" She explains that her elder brother, Prince Sect, is supported by the Western Kingdom, while Prince Dacarius is backed by the Eastern Kingdom, both of whom despise the other races. If either of them ascends the throne, the Alpha will be persecuted again. Therefore, she seeks the Alpha's support in her bid for the throne, promising to protect their lands from any and all assaults. Fangaz accepts her proposal and says it is for the sake of coexistence between humans and Alpha. The princess rises and extends her hand to him, saying, "The age when we shall live together is near." He shakes her hand in return, marking the beginning of a new era. We then return to Ark and the others as they journey forward. Ark notices that Arya seems lost in thought, and he asks, "Aren't you happy with what we heard?" She answers that she's simply surprised humans have chosen to stand beside the Alpha, and asks, Do you think the day when humans and Alpha will truly coexist is near? Ark simply gazes at her without replying. We then move to Prince Sect's palace, where he receives news of Princess Yuriana's survival and the success of her negotiations. He feels that his chances of reaching the throne are now threatened and begins to suspect his men, doubting that any of them can be trusted anymore. At the same time, we see Yuriana lying on her bed, reflecting on all she has gone through, realizing that she had indeed died, and what happened to her was nothing short of a miracle. She decides she will not squander that second chance and will fulfill her duties completely. Then we shift to the King of the East, who receives news of the deaths of both Hydra and Famba, and he laughs a strange laugh, saying, "No matter, but I want to know who killed the Hydra." Finally, we see Ark walking with Kiyomi and Arya, saying that he can now return to his simple duties. But the two look at him and say, "You just killed a legendary beast. How can you say that?" Ark removes his mask, prompting Kiyomi to hide behind a tree in utter shock, while Arya laughs and says, "I've never seen you without the mask before." Ark laughs as well and asks her, "What will you do after your return?" Implies that she will take the crown prince to the spring to begin lifting the curse. Ark then remembers that he too bears a curse and must go to the spring for healing. After that, he asks Kiyomi if he may visit her clan. Still hiding, she replies, "All right." And it seems they are heading to Dinha, my friend. And thus, the first season of the anime arc comes to an end. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button to support us in continuing to produce new videos. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode, and activate the notification bell to be the first to watch the upcoming ones.